Morning, all of you. Today we are having an expert with us, Barry E.G. Fisher. He has served as a crime laboratory director for Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, operation held from 1987 until his retirement, that is in 2009. He began his career in criminalistics with the Sheriff's Crime Lab in 1969 and worked in a wide variety of assignments. His current interest concerns the interrelationship between forensic science and the law among with public policy issues concerning the timely delivery and quality forensic support services to the criminal justice system. He served as a member of American Bar Association Criminal Justice Sections ad hoc committee to ensure the integrity of the criminal processes. He is a member of many professional organizations. He is a distinguished fellow and past president of American Academy of Forensic Science and was awarded the Academy's highest award. He has many more feathers into his life, and we are right now fortunate to having him with us. And it is over to you, sir. Welcome to Paro University Department of Forensic Science.
Okay, let me put my slide up. Are you able to see my title slide?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, I'm going to get started now. I decided to speak on what I consider some of the emerging issues that we face in forensic science, and today's talk is going to cover both some of the technical areas, not in any great depth. I'm just going to be scratching the surface, as well as a bunch of issues that face forensic science practitioners that need to be considered. I'm speaking to you this morning. It's actually about 10 p.m. where I am right now on Tuesday from my hometown in Indio, California, which is an area about 200 kilometers east of Los Angeles, in a desert area in Southern California. The desert is called the Coachella Valley. And it usually gets pretty warm out here. We've been having some heat spells, and it's been getting up to around 50 degrees C. So it's pretty warm. A little bit about me. I grew up in New York City, and I attended college there. I received my Bachelor of Science degree in chemistry from the City College of New York. From there, I went on to graduate school to Purdue University, which is in the Midwest, not too far from Chicago, and received a Master of Science degree in chemistry. I was actually enrolled in a PhD program, but life has a funny way of making twists and turns, and I met this young woman during that time. We eventually got married, and that was the end of my academic studies. We've now been together, married for 52 years, so that's a pretty good run. In 1969, I started work at the LA County Sheriff's Crime Laboratory as an entry-level position as a criminalist, and worked there for 40 years, the last 20 as laboratory director. I also went to school in the evening while I was working at the laboratory, and took an MBA, Master's Business Administration degree from a local university in Los Angeles. And I've been fortunate to be president of a number of different forensic associations, the American Society of Crime Laboratory Directors, the American Academy of Forensic Sciences, and the International Association of Forensic Sciences, which incidentally will be hosting its meeting in the fall in Sydney, Australia. It's a triennial meeting, although this last year, because of COVID, they had to put it off. It's supposed to be in 2020, and now it'll be in this coming year. But that's a worthwhile meeting if you get a chance to attend. So I think it's important to remind everybody that this talk is based on my own unique experience in the forensic science profession here in the United States. And I'm not particularly familiar with forensic science in India, how it's practiced, how it's set up, the extent of it. So some of the things I'm going to say may or may not be applicable to your country or the particular region where you're located. Nonetheless, I think science has an important role to play in the criminal justice system, no matter where you are in the world. And I hope to give you some ideas, some thoughts about how science plays out in the criminal justice system. And about the criminal justice system, of course, it's very complex, and for it to work well, it's really important to have effective cooperation and coordination, communication amongst all of the various elements within the system. This is not just the scientists, but the legal profession, the public safety, the police, the public health, medical examiners, hospital emergency rooms. The entire scope is very important to effective practice of forensic science. I just want to offer apologies before I jump in and say that I'm going to be covering a large number of areas. I'm just going to be scratching the surface, and some of these areas may seem to be unrelated to the main topic that I've been speaking about, the title of my presentation is about. But I think it's important anyway to at least consider them and see how they may fit into your particular forensic science practice. I'm going to be talking, these are a few of the areas I'm going to touch on. As I said earlier, it's going to be very, very brief. This lecture could be a semester or even a year long to really do a deep dive in these particular areas. Forensic DNA testing, digital evidence, drugs and toxicology. Let's touch on ethics, bias, accreditation and certification, quality assurance, something about reporting findings, whether it's in reports or testifying in court, the importance of collaboration with all the elements in the justice system, interaction with forensic scientists and forensic institutes within your country and region, forensic science professional societies and their importance. And lastly, I just want to touch on the topic of lobbying at the local, state, and national level for added resources. I don't know of any forensic laboratories anywhere in the world that are funded or looked after nearly as well as they ought to be, and sometimes it's important for professionals, practitioners, academics to join together and try to change some public policy at the legislative and executive branches of your government. So let's jump off and start talking about forensic DNA testing. Back when I started my career about all we were able to do in using biological evidence to identify something was the ABO blood typing system. We were ecstatic, over the moon, overjoyed if we had a case where someone was an blood type AB. From there, we moved on to polymorphic electrophoresis enzymes to try to begin to narrow down the percentage likelihood that somebody left blood at a crime scene. And ultimately, DNA has proven to be a really significant boon in forensic science. Of course, with any positive thing, there have been a number of challenges due to DNA, and I'll touch on some of these challenges that are directly related to DNA, specifically the use of statistics in reporting findings in DNA testing. Prior to DNA, statistics were rarely used in forensic reporting, but they have gained a large foothold. I think the most important thing for using DNA in solving crimes is the availability of regional and national DNA databases, and setting these up takes a great deal of effort and coordination, as well as cooperation between the various elements of government, as well as determining what types of cases you'll collect DNA evidence in. When we first started in many areas of the United States, it was only for the most serious crimes, homicides and sexual assault cases. And over time, it expanded to all felony cases, and now we're beginning to see a change even beyond that, where anyone who's arrested is likely to have a DNA sample taken. And these policies vary from state to state in the U.S. because different states have different laws pertaining to the collection of DNA evidence from individuals. Right now, a lot of people see taking a DNA sample from a person who's arrested for a crime much the same as people have their photographs taken and fingerprints taken upon arrest. DNA samples, conceptually at least, are similar to that type of identifying evidence. More recently, we've started to see the use of familial DNA testing, where it's not been possible to identify somebody who may not have been in the government's database, but it may be possible to find a close relative, a parent or a brother, sister, cousin within the database to narrow down the number of people that are involved in these cases, and that has proven to be very productive in our area. I'm going to jump down to the last item on this slide because it affects all of these different things. There are civil rights concerns that people raise about the government being able to have very personal information about people and whether or not this has a chance of being misused. So this has to be considered. Commercial DNA testing has begun to enter the field. In the US, there's a big push for people want to know something about their genealogy, where in the world they've come from, something about relatives, And so there are a number of commercial DNA testing providers. Recently, the police have been able to get access to the data within these testing providers and use that to help them identify individuals. As I mentioned earlier about the civil rights concern, this has raised some issues amongst people that are concerned about the amount of control or information the police have. And what it's a give and take, a balancing act. We've solved some very, very serious murder cases using this technology, this technique. And we hope that that will offset the downside of worries about that individuals have. Another area in DNA that is gaining application is rapid DNA testing. Typical DNA testing may take days or weeks if there's a large backlog. And with rapid DNA, the technology exists where you can potentially get results within an hour or so. And there are considerations about rolling out this technology out in the field to allow police to have access to these technologies, so they could do a DNA test right in the field with the suspect, and the victims being present, and perhaps gain information to sort out the results. And of course, DVI, disaster victim identification, has found DNA to be extremely helpful. If you have cases of severe weather events, typhoons, tornadoes, hurricanes, tsunamis, whatnot, and you have many, as well as, of course, terrorist incidents where you have many, many people that you hope to identify. DNA has played a crucial role in that area also. Computer forensics is gaining greater application. It has to do with, in cases of financial crimes, dealing with trying to determine what people have been involved with. It takes a fair amount of training to be able to go in and secure the information from computer and other devices that may have computer chips in them, such as cellular phones and other types of units. Admissibility of this kind of evidence is an interesting consideration. You probably have heard of the low-card exchange principle, namely every contact leaves a trace. How do you trace something, some digital fingerprint in a computer system and be able to show that it comes from a particular individual? That's something that has yet to be determined, as well as accreditation. This is something I'm going to be talking about in greater detail later on, but accreditation has to be developed for computer forensic areas. Drug testing continues to be a very big issue in the forensic science arena. That's the reason I originally got hired at the Sheriff's Crime Lab, because they were facing very, very large backlogs in cases, and they had to do something about it. So they got approval to hire a whole bunch of chemists to address the problem. But beyond the traditional, typical types of drugs that we've seen over the years, the heroin, cocaine, cannabis, there are a whole bunch of new drugs that are appearing and being used by individuals. Some of the problems that we see with these is that do present laws actually cover these types of drugs? If you change the structural composition of the drug slightly, does the current law that's on your books deal effectively with that, or could the defense say, well, this is a different drug and it's not found in legal arenas? And then, of course, do forensic laboratories have the capabilities to do this testing? I'm reminded several years ago there was a big push in California to deal with anabolic steroids. A lot of these drugs were being smuggled in from foreign countries, typically Mexico, and being used by people who were bodybuilders who wanted to build up their muscle mass. And there was concern by the state legislature that things were getting out of hand, so they went ahead and passed legislation making possession and sale of these particular drugs, if they were not prescribed by a licensed physician. But they never bothered to tell the forensic laboratories ahead of time or ask if they had testing available to do these, to identify these drugs. And that presented a major problem for us because the law was passed. It was we started to get samples in from arrests from the police, but we didn't even have a test protocol available to demonstrate it was a controlled substance. Of course, along with the solid dose drugs, you have the additional problem of toxicology. You have to identify these drugs and their metabolites in biological samples, whether it be blood or urine, or in the case of autopsies, it may be some tissue, liver, and what have you. And these types of challenges have to be dealt with effectively, and it's important to be able to have these abilities not only to test the solid dose drugs, but also to get into the toxicology areas for the drug itself and its metabolites. So let's switch gears a little and talk about some areas in what does it mean to identify or test a drug, and or any type of forensic type of evidence. And we're dealing with objective versus subjective processes. Of course, subjective is many of the things that the testing that we do in forensic science tends to be subjective as opposed to objective. And I'm going to cover some of these things and how they affect our profession. So here's a bullet casing, and firearms examiner is called to court or has to write a report to express his or her conclusions about what does this mean, and how do you express a conclusion about evidence that is similar. What do terms such as consistent with, compatible, identical actually mean? Can you quantify this in some kind of way? And of course, beyond this, can you ever state conclusively that two items come absolutely from the same unique source. And that has become a bit of a challenge these days. I mentioned earlier about uh, DNA testing and the addition of statistics. So we're dealing with two common types of ideas in forensic science. One has to do with uniqueness, or what sometimes is called individuality, and the other is classification. So let's take a, for instance, you have two footprints or fingerprints. Um, can you actually say that they came from a same unique source? And that has become problematic because as we move further into using statistics to uh, quantify what a conclusion means, it's particularly problematic, difficult if you don't have statistics or numbers to go along with these conclusions. Now, when you get to something like classification, you're dealing with items of evidence that can be fit into a class or a group. So you have a hit and run case, and a chip, chip of automobile paint is left at the crime scene, and you're able to find a vehicle that it matches, has similar chemical compositions. You can't, of course, say that it came from the same source. All you can say is that it comes from this source or any similarly manufactured source. But oftentimes, in describing these types of this type of evidence, we're not asked uh, how does this relate to the real world? Do we know how frequently this kind of vehicle with this type of paint occurs in a given region, say a particular region of the city or in the state? Uh, that information is oftentimes not asked, and I think an expert might be hard pressed to answer such a pointed question uh, if he's examined in a court situation. So here we have an example. There's footwear evidence, and you're faced with a conclusion. What do you say? You say it's similar, consistent with, the same as, or identical. And how do you back up that kind of conclusion? Now, in a case like a shoe print, there's certainly not going to be any statistical information about all of these points on the shoe that are from random wear patterns. And about the best you're going to be able to say is to rely on your training and experience, and make a statement that based on that information, it's my conclusion, it's my opinion that that's the shoe. But if you're pressed hard by a defense attorney as how do you know this? How can you demonstrate this? You're probably going to have a difficult time in coming up with a response. So moving on to professional ethics, I think we all deal with ethical situations on a day-to-day basis in our personal lives as well as our professional lives. I've had some difficult experiences during my career where police have brought in an item of evidence and strongly suggested or asked if I could explain the conclusion in the most effective way that would help their case. And I've been reasonably successful in avoiding doing that because it's just not right. And some people have asked me in the past, what do you do? How do you know that something is unethical or it's not the right thing to do? And I give them I usually call it the headline test. I forget where I come up with this idea. I think I heard it at some lecture. And the headline test is simply if this case that you're working on wound up in the newspaper in the morning, how would you feel if the report was saying that you did something that was not honest or ethical or in some way problematic? How would you feel if your parents, your children, your spouse, your friends read this particular report in your newspaper? I suspect you'd have this very uncomfortable feeling, and that's certainly a good indicator of not going down that path. Of course, another way of doing it is to have a trusted senior person in your institute who you can rely on to serve as a mentor or a guide to help you out in this kind of area. Another issue that has started to be raised on a regular basis is something called conformational bias. And this is the tendency to come up with a conclusion that's based on something that you believe to be the case already. So let's go back to reading that morning newspaper. If you see an article that tends to agree with something you believe is a fact, you're going to tend to believe that story more than some other story that is perhaps not in agreement with what you believe. And this becomes a challenge if you're an examiner and a detective comes down into your laboratory and says, well, we know this is the person. It's the so-called smoking gun. We nailed this person. Now, all we need is for your report to confirm what it is we believe is the case. And as an examiner, that could certainly color your interpretation of the evidence that you're looking at. And I'm thinking now of a serious case that happened maybe 15 years ago with the FBI laboratory. There was a bombing in Madrid, Spain. A terrorist group had put a bomb on a train and it killed quite a number of people. The police found a plastic bag where they recovered some latent prints on the bag, and they, through Interpol, they sent these prints all over the world. And the FBI got a hold of them, and of course they were so keen on making the identification. They ran the prints through their AFIS system, their automated fingerprint identification system, and it looked to be a hit on this lawyer that lived in Colorado, which is one of the states on the west coast of the United States. What made it even more intriguing was that he was a convert to Islam, and he had defended in court some terrorist groups made up of Islamic observers. So they've kind of figured, well, this must be the guy because the prints look to be the same and his background looks to be the same. And they actually called in some other examiners who looked at this evidence and agreed. Well, it turned out that it wasn't the case. The Spanish authorities were able to identify someone else, and the FBI was mightily embarrassed by this, and it was all because of this business of conformational bias, that they took some information that was outside of the realm of the actual examination and moved it into consideration of the case that they were working on. So let's take a look at quality assurance, which is a huge area that's playing a big role in forensic science, not only in the United States, but elsewhere around the world. Of course, one of the issues in quality assurance is having standards, reliable standards that you can use. And one of the departments in the federal government, the U.S. Department of Standards, has a subgroup called the National Institute of Standards and Technology, who has taken on a project called OSAC, the Organization of Scientific Area Committees. And on the right here, you can see all of the different forensic disciplines that they've come to study. And each of these circles around the end are groups of subject area experts. And what they do is develop standards of practice. And once they have them written out, they send it out to a wide body of people in the field for comments, for changes, and modifications before these standards are adopted. So this is an effective way that we've used here in the United States to begin to wrestle with the issue of developing standard SOPs, standard operation procedures. Accreditation and certification, of course, are very, very big. For example, in the U.S., this is a group called ANSI, the National Accreditation Board, and they deal with ISO 17025 forensic testing. And as you go around the world, there are many, many groups in individual countries that are adopting ISO 17025 or 17020 to demonstrate that they are doing quality work in their institutes. One of the outcomes of this is in the U.S., there's the formation of a group called the Association of Forensic Quality Assurance Managers. This is a group of quality assurance managers in various laboratories and institutes around the country that meet regularly to discuss how to deal with different types of problems that come up, to figure out how to deal with some of these unique situations that they have to deal with. For example, one of the requirements of ISO 17025 is to document errors that are made in a laboratory. And so the question is, well, how do you effectively document these things? What do you do if an individual keeps on making the same mistakes? Do you retrain them, or is that cause to discharge them from their jobs? What do you do if it's a minor type of thing, like a typographic error that this individual has made on a couple of occasions or just is constantly not proofreading their reports that go out and have problems in that area. Accreditation of practitioners is an area that is particularly important. It's gaining widespread use in the U.S., although it's not a criteria, it's a voluntary thing that people are doing. One of the accrediting certifying bodies that deal in the crime labs are the American Board of Criminalistics, but there are also a number of other credentialing bodies dealing with toxicology, handwriting, forensics, dentistry, pathology, death investigation, and so on and so forth. And these areas are good ways of demonstrating capabilities, and all these different associations are available. You can search for them online, and I know that they would be more than happy to provide assistance or advice to colleagues in different parts of the world. Another accreditation program in the U.S. over the last 20 years or so, there's been a large number of academic programs that have started up offering degrees in forensic science, and forensic laboratories began to become concerned that just because somebody is putting out granting somebody a degree in forensic science, it may have little application to what goes on in the real world. So through some help of the U.S. government and some grants, there was something called a Technical Working Group for Forensic Science Education, which later turned into a real accreditation program, the Forensic Science Education Programs Accreditation Commission, which is part of the American Academy of Forensic Sciences. And a fairly large number of universities in the U.S., certainly not all of them, have sought accreditation. And when I get contacted by people who are considering going for undergraduate or graduate degrees in forensic science in the United States, I suggest that they seriously consider going to accredited programs rather than just a program that claims to be providing a forensic science degree. Collaboration is a huge issue in forensic science, and by collaboration I mean with the police, prosecution, the defense, courts, and on and on and on, all the different players that come to bear with forensic science practice. These are users of this particular service, and it's important to collaborate and cooperate amongst all of these. That's often done through professional societies. I just threw up a few of them that I came across online. There's ENSFI, the European Network of Forensic Science Institutes, of course, the American Academy. There's, I don't know how much about this Indian Africa Forum Summit and what's that all about, but I'm sure there are many, many different organizations. And it's really worthwhile to have some serious interaction between all these different institutes and players, both in your city, state, your region, and at the national basis. It really helps to get the profession more professionals. One group in the U.S. is ASCLAD, the American Society of Crime Laboratory Directors, which is now, I guess about 40 years old. It was originally started by the FBI. There were, at the time, about 50 or 60 crime laboratories affiliated with law enforcement agencies around the country who did not interact whatsoever. And the FBI was able to bring them all together to form this group, which was dubbed ASCLAD. And as a result of that, they have made some major strides across the landscape. They were responsible for getting a big push on accreditation, on certification, on education in all kinds of areas, and even in the area of lobbying government for additional support, which brings me to the importance of lobbying. In the U.S., there have been two really key documents, and they're available online. The first one is a little over 10 years old, 12 years old. It was published by the National Academy of Sciences called Strengthening Forensic Science in the United States, A Path Forward. And they took a very comprehensive look at forensic science and published a report that discussed a lot of its strengths and many of the weaknesses in forensic science. It's an interesting read, and you can find it online. I put the URL up here if you have a chance to copy it, or you can just Google National Academy of Sciences / or hyphen Forensic Science Report. You can find it there. Another important document is something that was published 5-6 years ago by the President's Council of Scientific Advisors. And this was a very interesting report. It was highly controversial. This group brought together a large number of very well-known academics, as well as law school professors. It was unbelievably short. I don't think that there was any actual practitioners who were working in forensic science laboratories or institutes to have a balancing to what they were saying. And the academics, mostly the statisticians, really latched onto this, and they basically said that if there are no statistics for many of the comparative areas that are routinely reported in forensic science, there ought not be, it shouldn't be reported out or testified to. So this is, there's been a lot of pushback on this, but we still are being asked in court for statistics and error rates about different procedures that we do in forensic science. So that pretty much covers my talk. I wanted to leave a little time for Q&A, and I'm going to get out of this program now, unshare my screen, and if you have any questions, I'm more than happy to address them. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. It was really very interesting and yes, very informative session from your end. And there's like most of the time, students and faculties who are working over here are having a question that how they can be a part of different association and societies, around the world. So please, can you, share that knowledge with us? Like, how can we be a part of that society?
Well, In the U.S., I understand that the American Academy of Forensic Sciences is looking to come up with a different type of membership for foreign uh, colleagues. The current situation is that in order to become a member, you have to submit an application and have two people endorse your membership. And of course, if you don't know two people, uh, that can become a problem. So they're trying to um, loosen up on that procedure and also lower the cost of membership, because membership dues can be a problem. I think that it's also important to try to attend professional conferences on an international basis. There are many conferences all over the place. If you if you went to every single one of them, you would never be home. Of course, you'd have to be a very wealthy individual to be able to accomplish that. But if you're able to go to the occasional conference every couple of years, if your institute is willing to fund your presence at these at these uh, conferences and professional meetings, that would be a very good thing. And it's helpful if you also offer to present a paper at these meetings. Of course, publishing in international journals is also another way to get your self recognized around the world, and that's I think an important element of developing your career as a forensic science practitioner. Certainly, if it's someone new to the field or a student, it becomes much more difficult to accomplish that. By difficult, I always point out, not impossible, because some organizations have fees for students where the cost is limited, uh, is much less than the usual fee. And they also may provide some financial assistance for people to come to meetings. But you have to do some homework in that area and see what is available uh, to find out if that's in fact a possibility.
So one more question that most of the time students are trying to find the best university around across the abroad, like out of India, uh, particularly for the forensic science courses. Like if you have anything in your mind, like how can we able to go through that procedure, or it is like how can we able to identify the best university for the forensic science in US? Then please, like you, if you can share about that, just let us know about it.
Well, if you go online and you look up FEPAC, just Google FEPAC. They publish all their standards, all their requirements for universities who are offering degrees. So it's not necessary. Well, it'd be wonderful if you applied. I'm sure they would love to get some more international exposure, but it would be a fairly costly enterprise, because you'd have to bring some auditors over to visit your facility. But copying is very flattering. Uh, you could you could take feedback and just stamp Indian across the title page and just adopt the same kind of standards for practice in your country. Now, if you do it for a single institute, it's not going to carry a lot of weight. You'd have to get together with a number of institutes, and I know since COVID, I have become a regular speaker at these at on these conferences, and there are numerous universities in your country that offer programs in forensic science. And what you really need to do, consider doing, is to reach out and get together with some of the leadership in these programs and either do it on Zoom or some other platform, and, or better yet, get together face to face when the pandemic quiets down, and see if there are ways to define what an effective program is. And of course, if you're dealing with an effective program, you also want to make sure that the laboratories, I guess you would say laboratory, correct? But you understand what I mean. The laboratories that are hiring your graduates recognize that the coursework, the material that you're training these students in is of use to a particular lab. I remember we had this very promising student come down to visit the lab I used to work at. She went to a very prestigious university, and she had a degree, a bachelor's degree. She wanted to get a job in a laboratory, but she went to a college, a university advisor who knew virtually nothing about forensic science, and told this young lady that, well, if she studied anthropology, that would be her way of getting a position in the laboratory. And there was no hope, because I don't know the number of forensic labs in the U.S. that hire people with degrees in anthropology. You can count on less than one hand. It's just something that's not of use. You know, we are looking for people in the States that have degrees in the chemical and biological sciences, and now computer science is beginning to catch up. So that's yet another area. But if you're going to start, I was speaking with a woman today from, of all places, Romania in Europe. She's coming to the U.S. She's a PhD academic. She was able to get a job at a university teaching in a forensic program. But her degree was she had a PhD degree in entomology, insects. I mean, well, yeah, forensic scientists do get involved with insects if it's a dead body and there are beetles and bugs and whatnot crawling all over it. It might be interesting to find out about the life cycle, but that's not a very useful or helpful area for somebody to be looking to get a job in this field. And I think that universities, if they're going to be doing this area, have to be familiar enough with what the end user needs. I know that in the United States, after the O.J. Simpson trial, there was a whole bunch of TV shows, the CSI, very, very popular. And because of CSI, every college and university in the United States decided that they were going to have a forensic science program. So they attached forensic to anything that they could lay their hands on. But many of them had not a clue about what was needed. And that's a huge problem that has to be dealt with.
Yes, exactly, sir. And that is why it is like we need to start collaboration with various organizations that you have mentioned during your talk, that it should be a collaboration of policies and officers, academicians and researchers, so that they can get better exposure over there and they can get idea about how to proceed in forensic science, particularly if they want to get a job in particular field.
All right.
It was really amazing, and thank you very much, sir, for sharing your knowledge and experience with us. It is an amazing time that we had, and definitely there are like lots of questions that is arriving from the students, and definitely I'm going to share it with you so that they'll get an opportunity to know about it in more detail, and they can pursue their career in this particular field. So thank you
Well,
so much, sir.
I know, Shivani, that you know how to reach me. We've spoken, we have texted, we have WhatsApped. So if you have any questions of me or you want to pass on some questions from your colleagues, I'm happy to. I can't promise you I'll know the answer, but I'll give it a try. And if I don't know, I'll pass it on to somebody else who has that knowledge. But it's always a pleasure for me to try to help out colleagues around the globe, and I really think what we do in this field is extremely important, both for our communities, our countries, and the world as a whole. And that's why I'm so passionate about forensics.
Yes, sir, exactly. Like I always got answer from your end, and it is really very amazing that in a very short time you are giving us a explanation and answer. So definitely we'll be in touch, and definitely it was like we are always pleasure to have like you with us and just guide us in this area, so that we and our student can have a better opportunity, particularly
Right.
field if they want to pursue that career.
Okay. And you can find me on LinkedIn and Twitter. I regularly post what I think at least are interesting things for people to know what's going on. So at my end, it's starting to get a little late. It's a little past 11 p.m. So I guess it's time for me to sign off and thank you all for your kindness in letting me spend an hour of your time. And I truly hope that at least some of the things I've spoken about will be of help to you.
Yes, sir, definitely it is enlightening. Thank you so much, sir, and have a good night.
Okay. Good night and goodbye.
Goodbye, sir.